My name is Carl, and I'm 58 years old. I spent my entire life building something from nothing. As an accountant, I worked 60-hour weeks to give my family the life I never had growing up. When I discovered my daughter Jessica had stolen $22,000 from my credit cards for a European vacation with her boyfriend, I felt something inside me break. The betrayal cut deep, but what I did next taught her a lesson about respect she will never forget. Before I tell you how I turned the tables on my own daughter's betrayal, let me know where you're watching from, and hit that subscribe button if you've ever had to teach someone a hard lesson about respect. I grew up knowing the value of hard work and sacrifice. When I was 15, my father passed away suddenly from a heart attack, leaving my mother and me to fend for ourselves. With no life insurance and minimal savings, I started working after school at a local grocery store to help pay the bills. Those early years shaped me into the man I am today. I learned that nothing comes easy, and if you want something in life, you have to earn it through sweat and determination. I met my wife Amanda during my sophomore year of college. I was working 2 jobs while maintaining a full course load as an accounting major. Amanda was studying to become a nurse, and we met in the campus library, where I would study between shifts. She was the most beautiful woman I had ever seen, with a kind heart that matched her stunning blue eyes. Despite my busy schedule, I found time to court her properly. We would go on simple dates, often just walking through campus or sharing a meal at the affordable diner near school. After graduation and marriage, Amanda and I struggled for years to start a family. The doctors told us our chances were slim due to complications with Amanda's reproductive health. We tried everything, spent thousands on fertility treatments, and endured the heartbreak of 2 miscarriages. Just when we were about to give up, Amanda became pregnant with Jessica. When she was born, I held that tiny baby in my arms and promised her the world. I was determined to give Jessica everything I never had growing up. I worked tirelessly climbing the corporate ladder at my accounting firm, eventually making partner by the time Jessica started elementary school. We moved to a nice suburban home with good schools. Jessica had dance lessons, summer camps, and the latest clothes. Perhaps I overdid it, but I wanted her to have opportunities I could only dream about as a child. During her early years, Jessica was a sweet, thoughtful child who seemed to appreciate everything we did for her. She would make handmade cards for holidays, help around the house without being asked, and excelled in school. We were proud parents, believing we had raised a grateful, compassionate daughter. Things began to change when Jessica entered adolescence. The sweet girl who once thanked us for small gestures started expecting more and complaining about what her friends had that she didn't. Still, we chalked it up to typical teenage behavior and hoped she would outgrow it. When Jessica was 16, our family faced our greatest challenge. Amanda was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. The next 18 months were a blur of hospital visits, chemotherapy sessions, and countless nights when I held my wife as she vomited from the treatments. I took on additional clients to cover the medical expenses. Insurance wouldn't pay, often working 70-hour weeks while still trying to be there for Amanda and Jessica. During this difficult time, Jessica seemed to retreat further into herself and her social circle. Instead of stepping up to help the family, she became more demanding, more entitled. She complained about having to occasionally make her own dinner or do laundry while I was at the hospital with Amanda. She resented having to drive herself to school in our embarrassing second car instead of getting the brand new vehicle her friends received for their 16th birthdays. Thankfully, Amanda recovered. The doctors declared her cancer-free after her 2-year scan, and we tried to return to normal family life. Amanda and I recognized that we had perhaps been too lenient with Jessica during the cancer ordeal, allowing her entitlement to grow unchecked while we were focused on survival. We attempted to correct course, instituting chores and discussing the value of money, but the foundation had already been laid. Jessica's college years only amplified her sense of entitlement. She attended a private university, which we paid for in full, including room and board. We didn't want her to start adult life with student loans like we had. She joined a sorority and began socializing with students from wealthy families. Her taste in clothes, accessories, and experiences became increasingly expensive. Her Instagram feed transformed into a showcase of brunches, weekend trips, and designer purchases. I grew increasingly concerned about Jessica's values and spending habits, but Amanda convinced me that Jessica was just finding herself and would eventually mature. I continued to support her financially, paying her rent, utilities, car insurance, phone bill, and providing a generous monthly allowance for food and other necessities. During Jessica's senior year, she began dating Tyler. When she first mentioned him, she described him as ambitious and entrepreneurial. When I asked what business he was in, Jessica was vague, saying he had multiple ventures and investment opportunities. My accountant's instinct immediately sensed something off about him. When I finally met Tyler at Jessica's graduation, my suspicions were confirmed. He drove a car he clearly couldn't afford, wore flashy designer clothes, and spoke condescendingly about conventional careers and thinking inside the box. When he learned I was an accountant, he laughed and said, "No offense, sir, but that sounds mind-numbingly boring." I didn't like him from that moment, but I kept my opinions to myself for Jessica's sake. As I approached my 60th birthday, Amanda and I had been carefully planning our retirement. We had saved diligently over the years, setting aside money in our 401ks, IRAs, and other investments. We dreamed of traveling, spending time with future grandchildren, and enjoying the fruits of our decades of hard work. We had earned this time for ourselves after years of sacrifice. Little did I know that Jessica had other plans for our hard-earned money. After graduation, Jessica moved to New York City for a job in digital marketing. The position paid reasonably well for an entry-level role, about $60,000 a year. In most parts of the country, this would be a comfortable starting salary, but in New York City, it meant living with roommates and budgeting carefully. I helped Jessica with her security deposit and first month's rent on an apartment she shared with 2 other young women. I also gave her a $5,000 furniture allowance to get settled. I considered this a reasonable launching pad for her adult life, expecting her to take financial responsibility from there. Within 3 months, the calls began. First, it was a surprise maintenance fee in her building that she couldn't cover. Then her laptop mysteriously stopped working, and she needed a new one immediately for her job. Each time I transferred money to her account, usually between $500 and $1,000. Each time I gently reminded her about building an emergency fund and living within her means. Jessica would listen politely, thank me for the money, and then completely disregard my advice. Soon, the emergencies became more frequent. Her car needed repairs. Her phone was stolen and needed replacing. A pipe burst in her bathroom, ruining her expensive shoes. Each story seemed less plausible than the last, but Amanda would say, "She's still figuring things out, Carl. We had help when we were starting out, too." What Amanda failed to remember was that when we were Jessica's age, the help we received was a $100 loan from my mother that I repaid the following month, or Amanda's parents watching our cat when we went on our budget honeymoon to a nearby lake. As Jessica settled into New York life, she found herself surrounded by affluent friends who came from wealthy families. Her roommate Sophia's parents owned multiple properties in Manhattan. Her colleague Marcus received a monthly stipend from a trust fund on top of his salary. Her friend group frequented exclusive restaurants and clubs, took weekend trips to the Hamptons, and shopped at high-end boutiques. Whenever I expressed concern about Jessica trying to keep up with this lifestyle, she dismissed me. "Dad, you don't understand how networking works these days. These connections will help my career. It's an investment in my future." She would then add, Your financial advice is kind of outdated for today's economy, no offense. I would watch her social media posts with growing concern. There she was at a rooftop bar with $100 cocktails. There was another post from a weekend spa retreat, and another showing off a new designer handbag that I knew cost at least a month of her rent. When I asked how she could afford these things, she would vaguely mention side hustles or good investment choices, but never provided specifics. Amanda continued to advocate for Jessica, reminding me that young people today faced different challenges than we did. The cost of living is higher, Carl. Student loans are crushing her generation. Property is unaffordable. Give her some grace. While these things were true, they seemed like all the more reason for Jessica to be financially prudent, not more extravagant. Still, I kept my peace for the sake of family harmony. The Christmas after Jessica had been working for about 18 months, she brought Tyler home to meet us properly. By then, they had been dating for over a year, and he had moved to New York to be with hers. Jessica had mentioned that Tyler was between opportunities, which I took to mean unemployed. Throughout the holiday, Tyler's behavior confirmed my worst impressions of him. He spoke constantly about his business ideas and connections but offered no concrete details. He criticized our suburban lifestyle as limiting and conventional. He spent most of his time on his phone, barely engaging with our family traditions. When I asked about his family, he mentioned they were not in the picture and quickly changed the subject. One evening, I went downstairs for a glass of water and overheard Tyler and Jessica talking in the living room. They didn't notice me in the darkened hallway. "Babe, just ask them for the money," Tyler was saying. "They can afford it." "I don't know, Ty. Dad's been asking questions about my spending lately," Jessica replied. "Look, your parents owe you. They brought you into this world. Besides, they have more than they need. They're just sitting on all that retirement money when they could be helping you build your life now." I stood frozen, unable to believe what I was hearing. My own daughter nodding along as this man told her she was entitled to my life savings. The next day, I asked Jessica to join me for a drive. Once we were alone, I tried to have an honest conversation about financial independence and my concerns about her relationship with Tyler. "Sweetheart, I'm worried about the direction your life is taking. You seem to be spending well beyond your means, and Tyler doesn't appear to be contributing financially to your relationship." Jessica's face immediately hardened. "You don't know anything about Tyler or our relationship. He has big plans and he's connected to important people. And my finances are none of your business, Dad. I'm an adult." "Jessica, I'm not trying to control you. I'm concerned about you. Financial independence is part of being an adult. Is that all you care about? Money, some of us value experiences and relationships over counting pennies, Dad." The conversation deteriorated from there. Jessica accused me of never supporting her dreams and trying to make her life as boring as mine. I left the conversation feeling like I was talking to a stranger, not the daughter I had raised. After that Christmas visit, Jessica's calls became less frequent, except when she needed money. The pretense of emergencies gradually fell away, replaced by direct requests. "Dad, can you transfer $2,000? My friends are planning a trip to Miami, and I don't want to miss out." Or, "Dad, I need to upgrade my wardrobe for work. Can you send me some money for professional clothes?" Each time I felt more like an ATM than a father. But still, I transferred the money, hoping that eventually Jessica would mature and our relationship would improve. I never imagined just how badly things would escalate. It was a Friday evening in early June when I made the discovery that would change everything. Amanda was visiting her sister for the weekend, and I was alone catching up on household finances. I logged into my credit card accounts to pay the monthly bills, something I typically did on the first weekend of each month. As I scrolled through the transactions on my primary card, several large charges caught my eye. There was a $4,000 charge from an airline company, a $2,500 charge from a luxury hotel in Paris, and several smaller but still substantial charges from various restaurants and shops I didn't recognize. My heart rate quickened as I switched to my second credit card account. There I found more unexplained charges, a $3,000 booking for what appeared to be another hotel, this one in Rome, and a $1,500 car rental reservation. By the time I checked my third card, panic had set in. Another $3,000 hotel charge, this one in Barcelona, plus numerous smaller charges for what looked like tours, experiences, and high-end restaurants. In total, the unauthorized charges across all three cards amounted to approximately $22,000. My first thought was identity theft. In all my years of careful financial management, I had never experienced credit card fraud at this scale. With shaking hands, I called the customer service number on the back of my primary credit card. "I need to report fraudulent activity on my account," I told the representative who answered. "There are several large charges I did not authorize." The representative asked for my information and then began reviewing the recent transactions with me. "I see the charges you're referring to, Mr. Thomas. Let me check something for you. It appears these charges were made by an authorized user on your account, not by an outside party." An authorized user? The only authorized user is my daughter, but she wouldn't. I trailed off as realization began to dawn on me. "Yes, sir. According to our records, these transactions were made by Jessica Thomas using the card ending in 4723 that was issued in her name on your account." I felt as though someone had punched me in the stomach. Years ago, I had added Jessica as an authorized user on my credit cards for emergencies during her college years. I had forgotten to remove her after she graduated and started working. The representative confirmed the same was true for all three affected cards. I thanked the customer service agent and hung up, then immediately opened Instagram on my phone. I rarely checked social media, but I knew Jessica posted constantly. What I saw there made my blood boil. 3 hours earlier, Jessica had posted a series of photos announcing a surprise European adventure. The caption read, "So excited to begin our 2-week dream vacation across Europe. First stop Paris, then Rome, then Barcelona. Sometimes you just have to treat yourself. Blessed. Travel goals. Living my best life." The photos showed Jessica and Tyler at the airport, champagne flutes in hand, at what was clearly an airport lounge with their boarding passes partially visible. There were also screenshots of their itinerary showing luxury hotel bookings, first-class flights, and exclusive experiences. They were traveling with another couple friends of theirs I vaguely recognized from previous posts. I zoomed in on one of the photos and could clearly see Jessica's carry-on luggage, a brand-new set that must have cost at least $1,000 itself. Everything about the trip screamed excessive luxury far beyond what Jessica could afford on her salary, especially considering the New York rent she complained about constantly. My hands were shaking so badly, I had to set the phone down. $22,000. My daughter had stolen $22,000 from me to take her unemployed boyfriend on a luxury European vacation. Money that was meant for Amanda's and my retirement, for our future security, for the life we had worked so hard to build. I immediately tried calling Jessica's cell phone, but as expected, it went straight to voicemail. She was probably already on the plane. I sent a text message simply asking her to call me as soon as she landed, giving no indication that I knew what she had done. I wanted to hear her explain it herself. While waiting for a response I knew wouldn't come for hours, I called Amanda. I hated to ruin her weekend with her sister, but this was too significant to keep to myself. "Carl, is everything okay?" Amanda answered immediately, sensing something was wrong from my tone. "No, it's not. I replied and proceeded to explain what I had discovered. Amanda gasped when I told her the total amount. There must be some mistake. Jessica wouldn't do that to us. Maybe someone stole her cards. Amanda, she posted about the trip on Instagram. She and Tyler are flying to Paris right now, staying in luxury hotels we paid for without our knowledge or permission. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Then Amanda began to cry softly. How could she do this, after everything we've done for her? For the first time, Amanda seemed to truly see the entitlement we had unintentionally fostered in our daughter. No more excuses about generational differences or finding her way. This was theft, plain and simple. What are you going to do? Amanda finally asked. That was the question I had been asking myself since making the discovery. My initial instinct was to call Jessica immediately, to rage and yell and demand explanations. But a deeper, calmer part of me knew that wouldn't be effective. Jessica was 24 years old. If she hadn't learned about consequences, yet perhaps it was time for a real-world lesson. I'm going to let them land first, I said quietly. Let them get all the way to Paris, try to check into their fancy hotel, and then I'm going to cancel everything. Everything, Amanda sounded uncertain. The credit cards, the hotel reservations, all of it. Let them feel what it's like to be stranded without a safety net. Let them understand what they've done. After a moment's hesitation, Amanda said, Do what you think is right, Carl. I trust your judgment. As I hung up the phone, a strange calm came over me. For years, I had enabled Jessica's behavior out of love, out of a desire to give her everything. But sometimes the most loving thing a parent can do is allow their child to experience the natural consequences of their actions. I poured myself a glass of whiskey and settled in for a long night of watching Jessica's flight path on the airline's tracking app. The waiting had begun. I didn't sleep at all that night. I sat in my home office tracking Jessica and Tyler's flight across the Atlantic. The airline app showed their plane steadily moving toward Paris, each mile bringing them closer to the moment of truth. During those long hours of waiting, I experienced a roller coaster of emotions. At times, doubt crept in. Was I being too harsh? Would this irreparably damage my relationship with my daughter? Then I would remind myself of the magnitude of her betrayal. This wasn't a momentary lapse in judgment or a small transgression. This was a carefully planned deception involving $22,000 of my money, taken without permission for a lavish vacation I would never have approved. Other moments, I felt an almost tranquil resolve. For too long, I had allowed Jessica to take advantage of my generosity without consequences. This pattern would continue indefinitely unless something significant changed. Sometimes the most valuable lessons come through difficult experiences. As their plane crossed over the coast of France, I checked Jessica's Instagram again. She had posted several photos from the flight champagne toasts with Tyler, a multi-course meal served on real china, Tyler sleeping comfortably in a fully reclined first-class seat. Each image reinforced that they were enjoying luxury purchased with stolen money. At 7:23 a.m. Paris time, the flight status changed to landed. Shortly after, Jessica posted a picture of herself and Tyler in the Charles de Gaulle airport with the caption, Bonjour Paris, let the adventure begin, #dream vacation. That was the signal I had been waiting for. Now that they were officially on French soil, thousands of miles from home, I began systematically dismantling their carefully planned getaway. First, I called each credit card company. I explained the situation truthfully, that my daughter had made unauthorized purchases using her authorized user card. I requested that all 3 cards be canceled immediately and new ones issued. I also permanently removed Jessica as an authorized user on all accounts. Sir, are you sure you want to do this? Asked one representative. Your daughter will not be able to use the card anymore, and any pending authorizations may not go through. I'm absolutely certain, I replied. This is long overdue. Next, I called the luxury hotel in Paris where Jessica and Tyler were scheduled to stay. I explained that the credit card used to make the reservation was reported as compromised and that I needed to cancel the booking immediately. This reservation is for Jessica Thomas and Tyler Reed, the hotel employee confirmed. That's correct. I understand, sir. The reservation has been canceled. Please note that since this is a same-day cancellation, normally there would be a fee, but given the circumstances with the compromised card, we will waive it this time. I followed the same process for the hotels in Rome and Barcelona, the rental car company, and several tour operators that had pending charges. One by one, I undid all of Jessica's arrangements. By 9:00 a.m., Paris time, their entire European dream vacation existed only in the Instagram posts announcing it. Throughout this process, I maintained a strange emotional detachment, as if I were handling a complex work assignment, rather than dismantling my daughter's vacation. I knew the emotional fallout would come later, but for now I focused on the task at hand. As I was finishing my calls, my phone buzzed with a text message from Jessica. Just landed in Paris. The hotel is amazing. Thanks for all your support. Always love you. The audacity of that message thanking me for support she had stolen nearly made me throw my phone across the room. Instead, I took a deep breath and typed a simple reply. Enjoy your stay. Check your cards. Then I waited. I knew it wouldn't be long before reality caught up with Jessica and Tyler. Amanda called around noon my time to check in. Did you do it? She asked. Yes, it's done. All the cards are canceled and all the reservations are voided. Have you heard from her yet? Not since they landed. She sent a text pretending everything was normal. They probably went straight to the hotel. I expect I'll be hearing from her very soon. Amanda sighed heavily. Part of me feels awful about this, Carl. She's going to be stranded in a foreign country. She's 24 years old with a full-time job, I reminded her. She has her own money and her own credit cards. They won't be sleeping on the streets. They just won't be sleeping at the Four Seasons on our dime. You're right, Amanda said after a pause. I just keep thinking of her as our little girl. That's been part of the problem. We need to see her as the adult she is, and adults face consequences for their actions. After hanging up with Amanda, I made a pot of coffee and settled in for what I knew would be an extremely unpleasant conversation once Jessica discovered what I had done. Despite my resolve, my stomach was in knots. No parent wants to be in this position, but I reminded myself that this was Jessica's doing, not mine. At 2:37 p.m., my time, the first frantic text arrived. Dad, what's going on with the credit cards? The hotel says our reservation was canceled. I didn't respond. 3 minutes later, emergency, call me right now. I still didn't respond. Then my phone rang. Jessica's face appeared on my screen. I took a deep breath and answered. Hello, Jessica. Dad. Thank God there's been some horrible mistake. All the credit cards are declined and the hotel says our reservation was canceled. We're sitting in the lobby with all our luggage and nowhere to go. You have to fix this right now. Her voice was shrill with panic, but also entitled as if this inconvenience was somehow my fault. I remained calm as I responded. There's no mistake, Jessica. I canceled the cards and the reservations. There was a moment of stunned silence on the other end. You did what? She finally screeched. Why would you do that? We're stranded in Paris. I did it because you stole $22,000 from me, Jessica. You used my credit cards without permission to book a luxury European vacation. I didn't steal anything. I'm an authorized user on those cards. I've always been allowed to use them. For emergencies and with permission which you never asked for. This was theft, Jessica, plain and simple. I could hear her breathing heavily, processing what I was saying. Then came the tears right on cue. "Daddy, please," she sobbed, her voice suddenly small and childlike. "You can't do this to me. We're in a foreign country. We have nowhere to go. Please turn the cards back on just for the trip. I promise I'll pay you back. Please, Daddy." For a moment, my resolve wavered. The sound of my daughter crying activated something primal in me, the instinct to protect her that had been present since she was born. But I steeled myself, remembering the calculated way she had abused my trust. "No, Jessica, not this time. You need to understand that actions have consequences." Her tone changed instantly, the vulnerable child replaced by an angry adult. "You're doing this to punish me. That's so messed up, and you never wanted me to be happy. You're just jealous because Tyler and I are living life to the fullest, while you count pennies and live your boring suburban life." I could hear Tyler in the background now, his voice growing louder, as he apparently took the phone from Jessica. "Mr. Thomas, this is completely inappropriate and possibly illegal," Tyler said, attempting to sound authoritative. "Jessica is an authorized user on those accounts. You can't just strand us in Europe. I'm considering calling my lawyer about this." "Feel free to do that, Tyler," I replied evenly. "While you're at it, you might want to ask your lawyer about the legal definition of credit card fraud. Using someone else's credit card without permission for personal purchases of this magnitude could potentially result in felony charges. Authorized users are not joint account holders. They have no legal right to make purchases without the primary cardholder's consent." "Are you threatening us?" Tyler sputtered. "Not at all. I'm simply pointing out the legal reality of the situation. Now I suggest you two figure out your next steps. I believe Jessica has a job she should be returning to soon." I could hear Jessica crying again in the background as Tyler tried to formulate a response. Finally, he just hung up. Over the next few hours, a barrage of texts came in from Jessica, ranging from pleading to furious. I responded to none of them. Eventually, she sent one that simply read, "Fine, we booked a cheap hostel for tonight. Thanks for nothing." I felt a small measure of relief knowing they had found accommodation, but I maintained my resolve. This lesson was long overdue. I received a notification that Jessica had posted on Instagram, so I checked her account again. All her previous posts about the luxury European vacation had been deleted. Her social media went completely silent after that. I imagined the embarrassment of explaining to her friends why their glamorous trip had suddenly derailed. Later that evening, I received an email from Jessica's credit card company confirming a purchase of economy-class tickets from Paris back to New York, departing the next day. The dream vacation had lasted less than 24 hours. 5 days later, Jessica and Tyler arrived at our house unannounced. Amanda and I had just finished dinner when the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find my daughter looking exhausted and unkempt, with Tyler standing sullenly behind her. "Can we come in?" Jessica asked, her voice small and tight. I stepped aside silently, allowing them to enter. Amanda looked up from clearing the table, her expression a mix of surprise and concern. "Jessica," she said softly, "we weren't expecting you." "Yeah, well, our plans changed," Jessica replied with a hint of bitterness. She dropped her purse on the couch and sat down heavily. Tyler remained standing, arms crossed defensively across his chest. "We should talk," I said, gesturing for everyone to sit in the living room. Amanda joined us, sitting beside me on the love seat, while Jessica and Tyler took the couch across from us. For a moment, no one spoke. The tension in the room was palpable. "What you did was completely out of line," Jessica finally said, breaking the silence. "Do you have any idea what we went through?" We were stranded in a foreign country. We had to stay in a disgusting hostel with 10 other people in the room. We had to fly home in the middle seat of economy class for 9 hours. I noticed she was attempting to position herself as the victim, a tactic she had perfected over the years. This time I wouldn't allow it. "Jessica," I said calmly, "before we go any further, I want to show you something." I retrieved a folder from my office and returned to the living room. Inside were printouts of all the unauthorized charges she had made, highlighted and organized chronologically, along with screenshots of her Instagram posts about the trip. "You stole $22,000 from your mother and me," I said, sliding the papers across the coffee table toward her. "You used our credit cards without permission to fund a luxury vacation we knew nothing about. Before you continue playing the victim, I want you to acknowledge what you did." Jessica glanced at the papers, but made no move to pick them up. "I didn't steal anything," she insisted. "I've always been allowed to use those cards. For emergencies with our knowledge and permission," Amanda interjected, her voice firm but sad. "Not for first-class flights and five-star hotels." "You never said I couldn't use them for travel," Jessica countered weakly. "Because we never imagined you would do something so blatantly disrespectful," I replied. "The fact that you're arguing semantics rather than apologizing speaks volumes, Jessica." Tyler, who had been silently fuming, suddenly spoke up. "Look, maybe there was a miscommunication about the cards, but what you did was cruel. You could have just asked for the money back instead of leaving us stranded." I turned my attention to Tyler, studying him for a moment, before responding. "Tyler, with all due respect, you have absolutely no say in this conversation. This is between my daughter and us. The fact that you participated in spending money that wasn't yours, and that you're now trying to lecture me about it, tells me everything I need to know about your character." Tyler's face flushed with anger. "You don't know anything about me or my character." "I know enough," I replied simply. Jessica placed a restraining hand on Tyler's arm, perhaps sensing that his attitude wasn't helping their cause. Then she tried a different approach, her eyes filling with tears. "Daddy, I know what I did was wrong. I just wanted to have a special trip with Tyler. Things have been so stressful at work, and all my friends are always doing amazing things. I just wanted something nice for once." "For once," I repeated incredulously. "Jessica, we've given you everything. We paid for your education. We helped with your apartment. We've sent you money whenever you asked. And this is how you repay us." I picked up the stack of papers again and flipped through until I found what I was looking for. "Did you think I wouldn't notice these other charges before the big trip you've been taking smaller amounts for months? 300 here, 500 there. Shopping sprees, dinners, weekend getaways. This wasn't a one-time lapse in judgment. This was a pattern of deception." Jessica's face crumpled, and real tears began to flow. Not the calculated ones she had used to manipulate me over the phone, but genuine tears of shame as her actions were laid bare. "I didn't think you'd miss the money," she said through her sobs. "You and Mom have so much, and my salary barely covers rent after taxes. It's not fair that I have to struggle while you have all this." The entitlement in her statement struck me like a physical blow. "Not fair," I repeated. "Jessica, your mother and I worked for 40 years to build what we have. We started with nothing. We saved and sacrificed. We delayed gratification. We earned everything through hard work and smart choices. What's not fair is you thinking you deserve the rewards without the effort." Jessica continued to cry, but I noticed Tyler's expression changing from defiance to discomfort. He shifted in his seat, avoiding eye contact with me. "Jessica," Amanda said gently, "we love you. We've always wanted the best for you, but somewhere along the way, we failed to teach you the value of hard work and honesty. That's partly our responsibility, and I'm sorry for that. But what you did was wrong, and it hurt us deeply. Jessica nodded, wiping her eyes. I know. I'm sorry, I really am. I'll pay you back, I promise. It's not just about the money. It's about trust. You violated our trust in a profound way. We can work it out, Jessica pleaded. I'll do better. Tyler will help me. Right, Tyler. We all turned to look at Tyler, who suddenly seemed very interested in his shoes. When he finally looked up, his expression had changed completely. Actually, Jessica, I think we need to talk about our relationship, he said, not meeting her eyes. Jessica stared at him in confusion. What do you mean? This whole situation has made me realize some things. I think maybe we moved too fast. I think we should take a break. The room fell silent. Jessica's mouth opened and closed several times before she found her voice. A break after everything we've been through. After I spent all this money to give us an amazing trip. You mean after you stole your parents' money? Tyler corrected, suddenly self-righteous. I had no idea those were your parents' cards. You told me they were yours. You lied to me too, Jessica. The hypocrisy was breathtaking. This man who had been perfectly happy to enjoy the fruits of Jessica's theft and who had threatened legal action against me just days ago was now positioning himself as an innocent victim. That's not true, Jessica cried. You knew exactly what I was doing. It was your idea to upgrade to first class. I never told you to steal from your parents, Tyler shot back. This is exactly the kind of drama I don't need in my life right now. I'm trying to focus on my career. What career? Jessica spat. You haven't had a job in months. You've been living in my apartment, eating food I pay for while talking about your big plans that never materialize. The argument escalated rapidly, with Jessica and Tyler throwing accusations at each other, completely forgetting Amanda and I were still in the room. As painful as it was to witness, I saw it as a necessary revelation. Jessica was finally seeing Tyler's true character. I think you should leave, Tyler, I finally interjected. Jessica will be staying here tonight. Tyler stood up, seemingly relieved to have an excuse to exit. Fine by me. Jessica, I'll get my stuff from your apartment this weekend. Don't bother coming when I'm there, Jessica said, her voice cold. I'll leave your things with the doorman. After Tyler left, Jessica collapsed into fresh tears. Amanda moved to sit beside her on the couch, putting an arm around her shoulders. He never really cared about me, Jessica sobbed. He just wanted the lifestyle. I think you both wanted the lifestyle, I said gently, without being willing to work for it. Jessica nodded slowly, sniffling. Everything's such a mess, Dad. My friends all saw my posts about the trip and then saw we came back immediately. Everyone at work knows I lied about being sick to take vacation days. Tyler's leaving me. My credit cards are maxed out from the emergency flights home. I don't know what to do. You start over, I said. You take responsibility, make amends, and rebuild from a place of honesty. How I don't even know where to begin. First, you need to understand that your relationship with social media is unhealthy, Amanda said. You've been living beyond your means to create an illusion for people who probably don't even care about you. Jessica nodded reluctantly. I know. I get so anxious when I see everyone else's perfect lives. I feel like I'm falling behind if I'm not doing amazing things all the time. But trying to keep up has ruined everything. Second, I continued, you need to learn financial responsibility. Real financial responsibility, not just the surface-level understanding you claim to have. Will you help me? Jessica asked, looking up at me with red-rimmed eyes. I want to change Dad. I really do. I hate who I've become. I studied my daughter's face, searching for signs of manipulation. Instead, I saw genuine remorse and fear. The shell of entitlement had finally cracked, revealing the vulnerable young woman beneath. "Yes, Jessica," I said softly. "We'll help you, but things will be different from now on." As Jessica cried in Amanda's arms, I felt a complicated mix of emotions: sadness for the pain my daughter was experiencing, anger at how things had reached this point, but also a cautious hope that perhaps this crisis would be the catalyst for real change. 3 months passed, and with them came significant changes in Jessica's life and in our relationship. After staying with us for a week following the Paris incident, Jessica returned to New York with a new perspective and a comprehensive plan we had developed together. The first step was moving out of her expensive apartment and finding a place she could actually afford. She found a modest one-bedroom in Brooklyn, far from the trendy Manhattan neighborhood where she had been living beyond her means. The commute was longer, but her rent was cut nearly in half. True to his word, Tyler had moved his belongings out and completely disappeared from Jessica's life. When she tried to contact him a few weeks later, she discovered he had blocked her on all platforms and was already posting pictures with another woman. The speed with which he had moved on confirmed what I had suspected all along. He had been using Jessica for the lifestyle she provided. Instead of being devastated by the breakup, Jessica seemed relieved. "He never really saw me, Dad," she told me during one of our weekly phone calls. "He saw what I could give him, the doors. I could open the experiences I could provide. Without your money, I wasn't valuable to him anymore." Her revelation was painful to hear, but represented an important step in her growth. She was beginning to discern genuine connections from transactional ones. With my guidance, Jessica created a realistic budget for the first time in her adult life. We went through her expenses line by line, identifying areas where she could cut back without sacrificing her quality of life. She canceled subscription services she rarely used, started cooking at home instead of ordering takeout, and found free or low-cost alternatives to her expensive gym membership. Most importantly, we created a debt repayment plan. Jessica had accumulated nearly $30,000 in credit card debt on her own cards, in addition to the $22,000 she had stolen from me. We agreed that she would pay me back in monthly installments of $500, which would take years, but demonstrated her commitment to making things right. Jessica also started seeing a therapist who specialized in social media addiction and validation issues. Through these sessions, she began to understand how her need for external validation had driven her to make destructive choices. She dramatically reduced her social media usage, eventually deleting her Instagram account entirely. "It was making me miserable, Dad," she explained. "Every time I looked at it, I felt inadequate. And I was spending money I didn't have trying to create a life that looked good in photos, but felt hollow in reality." Amanda and I had our own healing to do as well. We had many difficult conversations about our role in creating Jessica's entitlement. We had given her everything without teaching her the value of earning it herself. In our desire to provide her with opportunities we never had, we had inadvertently robbed her of the satisfaction that comes from achievement through effort. "We meant well," Amanda said during one of these discussions, "but we should have let her struggle more, let her fail sometimes. That's how people build resilience and character." I agreed. Our intentions had been pure, but the outcome had been a young woman who felt entitled to whatever she wanted, regardless of whether she had earned it. As Father's Day approached, Jessica called to ask if she could come home for the weekend. She hadn't been back since the immediate aftermath of the Paris incident, and I was curious to see how she had changed. When she arrived, the physical transformation was subtle but significant. Gone were the designer clothes and perfectly styled hair. Instead, she wore simple casual attire and less makeup. But the most notable difference was in her demeanor. The frantic energy and constant need for stimulation had been replaced by a calmer, more grounded presence. Jessica had made dinner reservations at a modest local restaurant, insisting on treating Amanda and me. As we sat down at our table, she reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope, sliding it across the table to me. "Happy Father's Day, Dad," she said softly. Inside was a card with a heartfelt message she had written herself, not a pre-printed sentiment. Also in the envelope was a check for $1,000, twice her usual monthly payment toward her debt. "I got a promotion at work," she explained, a genuine smile lighting up her face. "I've been focusing on actually doing my job well instead of cultivating my personal brand, and my boss noticed. It's not a huge raise, but I wanted you to have the first fruits of it." I felt a lump form in my throat. This small gesture represented more growth than all her previous promises combined. She was not only taking responsibility for her actions, but finding satisfaction in doing the right thing. Throughout dinner, Jessica shared stories about her new life, the changes she was making, and the insights she was gaining through therapy. She talked about learning to cook, finding free concerts in the city, and building friendships based on genuine connection rather than social status. "I still have a long way to go," she admitted, as we were finishing our meal. "Sometimes I slip back into old patterns, especially when I'm stressed. But I'm learning to catch myself. And I'm actually happier now living within my means than I was when I was constantly straining to maintain an image." As I listened to my daughter speak, I realized that the painful lesson of the canceled vacation had been a pivotal moment in her life. By allowing her to face the consequences of her actions, I had given her something far more valuable than money or material comforts. I had given her the opportunity to develop integrity, self-reliance, and genuine self-respect. "I'm proud of you, Jessica," I said, reaching across the table to squeeze her hand. "Not because you're paying me back or because you got a promotion. I'm proud of you because you're becoming a person of substance and character." Tears welled in Jessica's eyes. "That means everything to me, Dad. And I'm so sorry for what I did. Not just the money, but the betrayal of your trust. I don't know if you can ever fully trust me again, but I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to earn it back." "Trust is rebuilt one small action at a time," I told her, "and you're on the right path." As we drove home from the restaurant, I reflected on the difficult journey our family had undertaken over the past few months. The pain of Jessica's betrayal had been intense, but it had led to a necessary reckoning and an opportunity for growth that might never have come otherwise. Sometimes the most loving thing a parent can do is allow their child to experience the natural consequences of their actions. It's a difficult truth, one that goes against our instinct to protect and shield our children from pain. But in protecting them from consequences, we often deny them the chance to develop the strength and wisdom they need for a truly successful life. Jessica still had a long road ahead of her. Financial habits and emotional patterns developed over years don't change overnight. There would be setbacks and struggles along the way. But for the first time in years, I had genuine hope for my daughter's future, not because of what I could give her, but because of what she was learning to give herself: dignity, integrity, and the deep satisfaction that comes from living an authentic life. In the end, the $22,000 she had stolen turned out to be the most valuable investment I ever made in her future. Not because of what it bought, but because of what losing it taught her. As I reflect on this journey with my daughter, I can't help but wonder how many other parents are facing similar challenges with their adult children. The path to healing our relationship wasn't easy, but it was necessary. Today, Jessica is thriving in a life built on authentic values rather than appearances. She's repaid almost half of what she took, But more importantly, she's rebuilt something far more precious, our trust. If you're watching this and struggling with an entitled child, or feeling taken advantage of by someone you love, remember that sometimes the kindest thing you can do is allow natural consequences to occur. Setting boundaries isn't cruel, it's an act of love that allows the other person to grow. Have you ever had to make a difficult decision that hurt in the short term but led to growth in the long term? Share your experience in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories about family redemption and the courage to stand firm when it matters most. Thank you for listening to my story. Remember, genuine love sometimes means having the strength to say no even when saying yes would be easier. I wish you wisdom and courage in your own relationships.